Yeah, do you know what? Interestingly, I think that ChatGPT, when you think about ChatGPT and all the variations of it, really, we talk about ChatGPT, there are others, and there's ones that are more focused around text, there's ones that are focused around creating imagery, but ultimately they're using the same kind of back end kind of principles and machine learning techniques, and you know, a generative AI effectively. But when you look at those, what they've done is they've created these, if you like, test arenas for a layman or a less sophisticated person to come along and play around. Um, and actually they've been very surprised and amazed at what comes out. And I think that that in general has kind of given people another viewpoint on machine learning, which they can relate to. There's like, oh well, it's actually delivered something I've asked it, and that's just a simple question. So I think that that has really helped the less sophisticated investor around machine learning to understand that how it can be applied, the power of it, um, and that's obviously helped us in conversations we're having more recently. We're definitely seeing an increasing interest, and also I think a reduction in people's fears, I guess, around the black box and AI and what it's all about, because I think they're seeing it in a kind of real world scenario that they can relate to. Martin, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think, I completely second that. I think it's great for firms like us because it kind of like brings AI to the masses, if you will, and so like people are getting more comfortable with the tools. And I've been asked about how these algorithms actually work under the hood by some of my friends and family who never really, dreamed of trying to understand deep learning, but now seeing how amazing these tools can be and or impactful in their daily lives, they want to understand more how these actually work. And so that's great for, everyone, building these models and so forth. And to Mike's point, in terms of black box, it's really, while these algorithms are obviously a black box, even sometimes to researchers to some extent, it really helps understanding, when you, as Mike was saying, when you ask it a question, it gives you an output. And when the output is reasonable, you sort of like build up the trust. And previously we had similar tools that we had to get comfortable with. Like I would say even a pocket calculator is a black box because normal humans wouldn't necessarily understand how they actually work. But given that they are able to reliably calculate numbers, you trust that it works reliably in other circumstances as well. And before ChatGPT, we had Google Translate, which was a similar tool, obviously also using a deep learning language model under the hood, that people wouldn't generally understand how they work. But given that translations became better and better, people started trusting the tool more and more and were using it despite the fact that it was a black box. And that is true for finance as well. Obviously, we have the ability to test the results, in a scrutinized way to really make sure that the outputs that we get are actually reliable with respect to our backtests and simulations. And an investor, has to take our word for it. However, we also get a lot of requests from more sophisticated investors to deliver a lot of outputs from historical testing from these models that we have, and then they do their own analysis on robustness and overfitting and so forth.
Just, I guess, just to add to what you were saying, like when I think about ChatGPT, going back to that, there is also a risk when you look at trust around, trusting something that shouldn't be trusted. And this is not talking about finance at all, really, but more the general ChatGPT movement. If you couple that with deepfake video creation and the improvements in real-time transcribing speech, sorry, then you couple all those things together and you actually have quite a dangerous tool that allows people to create videos of other people saying whatever they want them to say and it looks real. So there is this kind of slightly dangerous side to all of this, which whilst it's exciting because you can imagine people creating, for example, training courses on the fly, for example, there is this sort of slightly murkier underbelly that says, well, actually people could do some bad stuff with it too. But I think that, we're nowhere near that kind of world when it comes to finance. I think, finance is still exploring how it can be used from a research and from a development perspective. But out in the wild, if you like, with kind of how ChatGPT is at the moment and social media and marketing and those kind of things, I think it can be quite dangerous as well.
Yeah, and to add to that, if I may, so I think some of these applications are probably a bit further away, but what we are already seeing is ChatGPT can be an extremely powerful coding tool, and there are obviously dangers that people misuse it and ask it to write, whole websites with an entire backend and so on. ChatGPT will happily comply to code that may even run out of the box. However, if you don't understand what the underlying code really does, that could represent a problem. And so and that also ties in with the point of, that a lot of people are making now. Will it replace, software developers or other jobs? And to my understanding right now, I don't think so. Obviously, the level of sophistication and productivity of developers probably will increase quite significantly, because before perhaps developers were using tools such as Stack Overflow, where you had to copy paste code snippets together. Yet again, you still had to understand the underlying code that you were copying and customizing for your own needs. And now ChatGPT can do the same in a much more efficient way. But again, it's crucial to actually understand what ChatGPT outputs, and there's obviously danger of it being misused here.